Okay, I'm going to do a kind of a brief overview of just the general aspects of transportation in Albemarle County. I'm the transportation planner. I work with some of you, like Ms. Hunt, Ned, Dan, and Ms. Foster. So I generally deal with any related transportation issues in Albemarle County. Been doing this. I previously worked with VDOT, and now came back. I used to work for the county. So we'll go through, without taking too much from the general sessions, just get a brief overview, an umbrella of what happens in terms of transportation. And if you can't hear me at the back, please just raise your hand and I can project some more. So I'll start off with VDOT. VDOT operates the third largest state-maintained highway system. And we have about 57,000 miles in the state. And the highway system is, as you can see, divided into what you call the interstate, primary, and secondary. The miles are listed on there. And then there's a separate system of urban streets. And there are two counties that actually maintain their own roads, and that's Henrico County and Arlington County. So this is just an aspect of what VDOT does in terms of the whole state. They are responsible for the interstate, primary, secondary, and generally they are the ones to go to in terms of funding and making sure we have all these states' highway systems in good shape. So VDOT's role is building, maintaining, and operating the state's roads, bridges, and tunnels. And they also are governed through what you call the Commonwealth Transportation Board. It provides funding for airports, seaports, rail, and public transportation. So the CTB is actually appointed by, it's an 18-member Commonwealth Transportation Board that's appointed by the governor. And they're the ones who actually allocate highway funds to specific projects. We just got done with doing what you call the House Bill 2 projects that will be looked at in terms of the new prioritization system. And so the CTB will be the one to allocate funds once all those projects are looked at and prioritized. The board meets, the CTB meets every third Wednesday of the month where meetings are scheduled. So if you want to attend, that's kind of when they meet. The agency has 9 districts, highway districts. There's Bristol, Culpeper, Fredericksburg, Hampton Roads, Lynchburg, Northern Virginia, Richmond, Salem, and Stanton. We're in the Culpeper district, and we have a Charlottesville residency, and Mr. Denanzio there is the head of the Charlottesville residency, so he's in charge of this area. And again, we have the CTB, and then we have the Secretary of Transportation serves as the chairman of the CTB. There are 17 board members. They're appointed by the governor. And then we have the director of Department of Rail and Transportation, who also, she serves as a non-voting member of the CTB. We'll then have what you call the MPO, and we'll have the breakout session with Will. Will works with the MPO. And how do we come about having an MPO? An MPO is formed once a population of an urbanized area exceeds 50,000, okay? And this is identified by the U.S. Census. And then what happens is there is an agreement between the governor and the local governments that represent at least 75% of the affected population. This agreement designates a policy body. We have what you call a policy board that actually does all, or takes all the information and makes all the decisions related to the region and the MPO. And this is done with what you call the 3C, continuing cooperative and comprehensive transportation planning process. This group is known as the policy board or the policy committee. There are 5 core functions of the MPO. They establish a fair and impartial setting for transportation alternatives. They develop what you call a unified planning work program. that's a list of all the objectives that the MPO needs or wants to achieve within a certain year. And then they maintain the long-range transportation plan. There's what you call a transportation improvement program, the TIP, which I'll go into again. And then the most important is usually making sure that there's public participation. So there's a public improvement, public participation program.
Could we ask a question?
Sure.
So the NPO is appointed by whom?
The NPO is not really appointed. It's just when the population gets to 50,000, by, like we had a 2010 census, and Stanton is actually one of the newest MPOs. So within Stanton, Augusta, and Waynesboro, they hit 50,000. So they got into an agreement with the governor to form what you call a metropolitan planning organization. And that's where federal funds are channeled through the MPO. So it's more of an agreement and is established when the population hits 50,000. That's a magic number, 50,000 and above. And once you get to 200,000, it gets into a whole other level.
So NPO is not human beings collective of human beings, it's just an agency that...
Correct. It's where how funds, it's a regional cooperative aspect. So we have what you call the Unified Planning Work Program, and Will can talk more about that. It outlines the planning activities to take place within the MPO study area. Okay. Then we have the Long-Range Transportation Plan. It's a 20-year document, that highlights all the projects within the region that the MPO and the localities actually want to see as projects within the next few years. So the projects that are really immediate and the region feels that need to be funded are usually in the transportation improvement program. We don't have to worry so much about the air quality conformity here because we are not in an area like Northern Virginia, so we don't deal with the air quality conformity. But there's always what you call a certifying planning process where the Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration they go and review and see what the MPO is doing and seeing if they comply with federal regulations. But there's also the TIP is related to what you call the STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program. All it is the state takes all the transportation improvement programs for the MPOs and compiles those together to form the state. Any questions as we go along? So the TIP is a 4-year program covering most immediate projects and strategies for implementation. So things like Route Solutions 29 projects are all in what you call the transportation improvement. So to receive any federal funding, a project has to be in the transportation improvement program. And why do we have the TIP? The TIP allocates limited transportation resources amongst the region's priorities. So for something like Solutions 29, for a project to happen within the MPO area, the policy board has to endorse it and agree to it. A lot of people know about having votes for a project. So Will actually does most of the project funding and deals with the MPO. And then it's updated every 1 and 2 years depending on the state requirements, and it's not a wish list. This is where fiscally constrained means there has to be money allocated to the projects. So it's not like we're just saying, hey, we have these 5 projects. There's money and there's what you call cost estimates associated with those projects. And they have to find that there's enough money to fund all those projects. This is incorporated into what you call the statewide transportation improvement program without change once approved. So these are the federal requirements. I won't go through all of them, but it's mostly about making sure we go through the continuing and cooperative and comprehensive. No, they're trying to make a regional aspect in terms of coming together, agreeing on projects that will affect a whole region. If it's Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna, all the regional players come together. So why an MPO? These are the reasons why. Transportation investment means allocating, there's not so much money. So we all have to agree in terms of, as a region, what are our priorities. So that's why they come up with an MPO. And an MPO is responsible for all the federal funding. And the federal government makes sure that the region as a whole has agreed, and they do kind of do like audits every once in a while to make sure everything's going according to the rules. Sure.
The MPO, how does the tip at the MPO fit into the House Bill 2 exercise we're currently going through?
I think what happens is we have the document that we have a county transportation plan in terms of, like, I have copies over here. So what happens with the House Bill 2 is the county actually has priorities that they sent to the House Bill 2. Okay, I just did 3 projects. There is a Profit Road, Sunset, and Exit 124. Those are not related to this. They're in the long-range transportation plan, but they're not in the TIP yet. But once they get funding, they moved into the TIP. And we had to get endorsement from the MPO for those projects. Okay. Did I answer your question? What it is we as a Albemarle County say, hey, we have these projects in the long-range transportation plan. We'd like to fund 3 of them. Okay. So we go get endorsement from the MPO. They say, yes, we agree that Albemarle County, all these projects are regional. We agree with them. Say, yes, you can apply for those. You can go into the prioritization process for those. So once we do that, I, as a transportation planner, go into the system and apply for those. But I can't apply without the MPO. And then once we get funding, if it's not in the TIP, it's in the long-range transportation, we have to put it in the TIP at some point. Okay. Who is the MPO? Those are the players. I'll move a little faster, but if you have questions, please let me know. These are the players in the MPO. There is a voting membership of the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO. There's 2 representatives from the city, 2 from the county, and then there's 1 from VITA. The non-voting members are all listed down there. It includes, the university, JONT, DRPT, the Federal Highway Administration. All these people are key players in the MPO. There's a public involvement plan that's really important, and it deals with mostly sometimes civil rights, making sure that some communities, disadvantaged communities that maybe don't speak English, how do we reach out to them, make sure they know what's going on in terms of transportation. And then we also deal with citizen advisory committees in some cases. And then they try and come up with innovative ways to reach other communities. So how is it funded? It's primarily through the Federal Highway Administration that channels all these funds, Federal Highway funds and Federal Transit funds. And you'll have a session with Will, and he can explain more on that. And then the rural areas have federal and state funding as well. So transportation networks in Albemarle County, we have mostly roads, and we have primary and secondary roads. The primary roads are the ones that are under 600, and the secondary roads are numbered 600 and above. So that's how you know what a primary and secondary road are. So the primary roads are 29, 250, 20, and then these are the ones that they plow first. When you hear during the winter, we are doing the primary roads first. They do the main roads, the primary roads, and then they get to the secondary roads. Public transit in Albemarle County is provided by the Charlottesville Area Transit, University of Virginia Service, Transit Service, and JONT. And they have different goals and responsibilities. the county actually funds services that are provided by the Charlottesville Area Transit within the county. So it's not free. We actually do pay for it. So we have the types of services, and each agency provides, as listed below. So the role of the Board of Supervisors is to establish their priorities, initiate traffic calming measures. They are members of the MPO, at least 2 of them, and they conduct public hearings to gain input from citizens about transportation-related issues, and they take action. So these are the roles, important roles. They are your representatives, and they play a key role in transportation. We have objectives that these are straight out of the comprehensive plan. If you can go online, you'll see these are some of the ones that I've listed that we deal with a lot, and we have to participate in state, regional, and local transportation planning efforts. I won't go through all of them, but they are online. You can look at them, and they have details on there. We have also pedestrian and bicycle facilities. This is becoming a big topic in the county, and we are working with the city to try and actually cooperate in terms of trails, bike lanes, and we had a group that presented a white paper. We've looked at it. We are talking to the city. We're also trying to come up with funds from what you call a transportation alternative program to fund some of these networks that we can join between the city and the county. So these are some of the on-road ones, but we're also focusing on off-road facilities, and David and Dan will talk about the trails and off-road facilities that are available. Most of them are in the master plan, different master plans in the county. So that's just a general overview, and see if we have time for 1 or 2 questions.